Hey guys, today we're doing our final playthrough for The Station, the scenario that was provided in the base game of Triplock. Today we're doing a very special playthrough. We are doing the Triplock solo variant, which can be found on BoardGameGeeks.com. I will put a link to this in the description, as well as some more information hopefully about it. We are going to go back to room 1 and play that. Well, let's go ahead and check out some of the changes that are made when playing the solo variant. The first and major change is we are no longer using the action dice that are provided within the game. Instead, you print out the action cards. There are 6 peak cards, and then 2 cards for all of the other types within the game. There we go. So let's go ahead and see how this version plays a little differently. Of course, they do have a little bit section here if you do a co-op, if you play one of the co-op rounds, like room 4, which you would need to print and make 2 versions of this deck. All right, so once again, the main thing is you use the cards instead of the action dice. And then you have within the actions, with what normally would be your roll actions, you have a few different things that you can do. Execute. Discard a card from your hand to perform its stated action. You may not execute 2 cards of the same type. Well, one thing I did kind of pass over, you start the game with your opening hand, which is all 6 of the peak cards. That means on round 1, you cannot play, say, both peaks and look at all, all 3, one of them, of course, twice. You only use 1 of the same type. There we go. Sacrifice. Discard 2 cards from your hand for no effect to perform any one action. This is just like with the normal game where you sacrifice your 2 die and do whatever of the actions you want. Here you would just sacrifice 2 cards from your hand and do any action that you want. Let's see. Come on. Let's focus. There we go. Replace. Return a card from your hand to the action deck to add any one card of your choice from the action deck to your hand. This tells me that most likely round 1 will be an execute. We're going to play one of our peaks and then swap one of those peaks for some other card that we want. Finally, the recall. This is what you do in place of the skill reset, one of the other slight changes to it. Discard 1 card from your hand for no effect and place the skill bead on the reset position to reclaim all cards. See below. So let's see here. So now we're going down here to the reset. Reset can only be done to recall all cards from the discard pile. When you place a skill bead on the reset position and discard an action card from your hand for no effect, using the recall action, return all discarded cards from your hand when you use the reset. So basically, once you start running out of cards, you do the reset to get all of those cards back. And then, of course, they have an optional rule to make it more difficult. But this is what we will do. So now let us go ahead and remind ourselves what the room rules are, what our goal in this game is. And it is to solve the follow master lock sequence before the room wins. Combination left to right. Once again, that means that here within the visible section, we have to have these mechanisms, and it has to be in this order. Room rules, solo setup, which is what we have. Room goes first. On the room's turn, Rotate all 4 mechanism stacks. Next, remove the failsafe from the hidden mechanism. If there is no failsafe, flip this stack and remove failsafe. If no failsafe can be removed, or you fail to attempt in solving this room wins. So once again, that means as you're going to rotate. So this guy's going to end up here. You're going to take his bit off. If he ever winds up going back to here, where then the stack that does not have the failsafe on top, you would then flip that and then remove that stack, which would mean at that point you would only have the mechanism. If that mechanism alone, or you get to one that say, and it doesn't matter that you see that because those don't affect this game, or if say when you came back it wound up this way, so you'd flip it, well again that would flip it to, there's no mechanism under there, so then we would lose. So that is how room 1 plays. We will be playing as Charlie. Her skill: you may place your skill bead on a stack in the visible section area. While the bead is there, your opponent may not peek or flip this stack. Her ability doesn't really help us too much in this game because we have no opponents, but I wanted to play with her so we can get through all of the different characters during this initial playthrough, so you can get an idea of who all they are. So when you play and when you choose to go, you might have a better understanding or a better idea of which one you want to pick. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at her and read her lore. It takes a lot of work to get on top of the royal company's most wanted list. A status like that must be earned. It takes dedication, some luck, and a good amount of sharpness. It makes sense then that Charlie Beckwith spends her days covered in grease in her family's underground bunker. Her parents, Liam and Becca, were key cogs in the failed uprising of 1845. The Union Underground spent years designing machines and weaponry of all sorts in an effort to take back the railway station and unlock the monopoly on coal and fuel. The results were fatal and disastrous, and they left Charlie an orphan with a home beneath the streets of Newtown. Charlie understood where and why her parents had failed. They needed more people, more weapons, and more machines, so they worked tirelessly rebuilding and improving Becca and Liam's designs and motivations, and with a small group of mechanics. Of course, acquiring food and the resources to build a new Union Underground required a vast network of people. Charlie ventured out most nights, sneaking around Royal Heights, ascending the walls and stealing what she could. Most of the ground level guards knew her by name and appreciated the bribes of stolen goods she always seemed to acquire. The guards loved premium cigarettes, and Charlie could grab 2 or 3 a day by scaling the West Side Tower and grabbing them from the balcony. This was a small price to pay for full access to royal quarters. Her capture seemed to be an inevitable monthly occurrence. The guards would lock her wrists and cuffs and march her through the cast iron gate, past the country yard, and down the steps to the jail. Days, hours, sometimes only minutes would pass. The guards would fall asleep or swift pass, and Charlie would be gone. Back to the bunker and back to work. Something felt different about tonight's escape. It was almost like they let her go. When she arrived back home, a box was waiting for her. On the bottom, a time, and a location was inlaid with gold. 1400 Ambrosia Avenue, 2 a.m. A quick peek at her watch showed it was already 1:30. Time to go. All right. So, let's go ahead and get this game started. Once again, room goes first. So, we are going to shift and disarm. So, let's go ahead and do that. There we go. And disarm. All right, let's check to see how we fit. All right, so we need the gear, the lock, and the code. Well, we see that we have the code here. So that's good. That's in the right location, in the right spot. So let's see what we need to do. The first thing that we will do is we will spend one of our peak cards and take a look at the next two diagrams. So let's see here. And we will look at these two. Again, because the room will shift and show us this one the next round, these are the two smarter ones to take a look at. So here we have the pull, which we do not need here because we can see the pull and the push are on opposite sides. So that one we do not need as much. This one is the lock, which is exactly what we need. That is pretty awesome. And that is really what we need there. So that means this must be the spring gear. Of course, I don't know if it's spring or gear, but I do know it must be that one. So, I wish I could do that first turn. There's no way to avoid it. Well, let's go ahead and we will trade in a peak card for any card of our choice. We will trade it in for a swap because I know that will be something we want, because at some point we'll probably want to flip these. Of course, I cannot do that this turn because I've now played my two actions. The first one playing the card, the second one, first one executing, the second one replacing. Next, we will use our skill. We'll go ahead and place it on the action. And then our turn is over because we cannot solve it. We're not ready for that. So now the room will go. So we will move these again. This will give us a chance to see exactly which one is here. And then, of course, we want to remember that we have the push-pull here. I don't care which one it is because I know it is not what I need for this game. And that we have the lock here. So let's go ahead and disarm that one. And it is the gear, which, if only I could have, when we were over here, done that actual swap first. Then I could have let this would have wound up here. Well, technically, at that point, it would have been here, or at this point, it would have been here. But swapping, it would have been here. When the room shifted, everything would have been in the right order. We would already be done. God, so close. All right, well, let's keep going. That was the room turn. Now it is ours. We don't want to flip those because it is not going to do us any good right now. We want this here, so we don't want to do this one. There's really nothing too much that we want to do. Let's go ahead and let us stack our deck a little bit. We have a swap card in our deck. We will trade a peak for another card, and we already have a swap. I don't think we're going to want two of those. We're not going to need a diagnose. We're not going to need that one. Flip. We might want a flip. So we'll go ahead and take that. And let's see. And we will trade in our last peak, or do another trade, a peek for an expose. So there we go. So now that's what we have. Because what I'm thinking is I'm gonna want to have one of these on hand to help me just move things along. Where next round I might even want to play that just to move things, because at that point I won't care about flipping this one or doing any of that shenanigans. All right, so then we will not use our skill action, because once we move it here, we will immediately have to do something. There's nothing else I really want to do, so we just won't use the skill action. Now let's go on to the room's turn once more. So now we're going to go like that, and that's going to open him up. There we go. Now it is our turn. And once again, we have the lock here, which we want in the second location. Then of course we see what all of these are. So let me think here. If we keep going, keep moving around, if we look and flip, all it's going to do is move and take it off. That is fine. We are okay with that. So let's go ahead and use our expose. Now that it is our turn, we'll discard that. So we will see, we can't, because there's nothing to expose. We can't see that. So we will flip it and then rotate. Like that. And so now let's see here. So we have this is getting complicated. All right, let me see here. We have the code, gear, the push-pull, and our lock. So, oh no. Okay, so let's see here. If we flip these two, then that will put him back here. Yes. Okay, so now we will use our flip. Or not flip, I'm sorry. Our swap. And swap these guys. Okay. And that is our turn. So now we will let the room go. There we go. So that will get discarded. Okay, so now we have the gear. We will trade in any two cards doesn't matter. Trade in 2, do any one action. We will swap there, and now we will solve the room. We have gear, lock, and code. That is it. Gear, lock, and code. Wow. It's very different. It adds a lot more strategy to the game, because in this one you are not dealing with the randomness of the dice. So you're having to really think about when you might want to play what, and unless you reset things, you only have a limited number of the dice. Additionally, like with here, when you play with the dice, if you were to say roll 2 of the same ones, you can do both actions back to back. With here, you can only do one of a type in a round. So it is definitely a whole lot different. And like I said, it changes the gameplay to, instead of being a more random type game, into a strategy memory game. So I could see where a lot of people would like this version a whole lot more. The other thing that I could see is maybe if where people could possibly do a combination of the two, where you have your deck of cards. Like there's a new Kickstarter out there, Oathsworn, that has a combination of dice that you roll and cards. I could see you possibly using that same strategy here in your own variant of the variant, where you can either play cards from your hand or roll the dice, or one card, one die, so forth and so on. I could see that being an interesting way, so you can keep semi, strategic, semi-random. That would be an interesting way to possibly do it. But that is the solo variant and our final character. Hope you enjoyed this series of playthroughs for Triplock The Station, the scenario that came in with the base game. I know I had a blast playing it. Hope it helps you to determine if this is the type of game that you would be interested in. And I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.